My Lord and my God, I firmly believe that you are here, that you see me, that you hear me. I adore you with profound reverence. I ask your pardon for my sins and grace to make this time of prayer fruitful. My Mother Immaculate, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me. Jesus, today in the Gospel we meet with you this man Bartimaeus, the blind beggar in Jericho, who cries out to you from the side of the road. And that's exactly what we're going to do now in these 10 minutes of prayer. We're going to cry out to you, Jesus. He says, Son of David, have mercy on me. Now we want to cry out to you in our prayer, maybe even physically, if that's where you are so leading us with your Spirit this day, but we want to literally to pour out our heart to you. That's exactly what Bartimaeus does. He is, in a sense, overcome by this opportunity to meet you, Jesus, and he certainly isn't going to waste it. And so he cries out, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. Even though they try to stop him, they tell him to be quiet, but he cannot be silenced. This is a man who knew how to reach your heart, Jesus, with his own sincerity, with his own deep desire to be close to you, his deep desire to be healed by you. And that's what we want in these 10 minutes, Jesus. We want that same intimacy that he was able to get in just that one moment. And so we're going to cry out to you with all of our heart. We're going to literally pour our hearts out to you now in this time, because we want you to hear, Jesus, what we have to say, so that we can hear what you have to say back to us. Now, often when we come to pray, we do so very quietly. In fact, quite often you walk into a church and you'll see huge signs: silence, do not talk, turn off mobile phone. Of course, all of those things are perfectly justified. We have to have a certain peace and quiet whenever we are praying. Where I live, it's a very busy road. You can probably hear car horns honking behind me, so it's hard sometimes to get that peace and that tranquility in our daily lives, but we have to filter out those distractions as best we can, because we want to come close to you, Jesus, leaving all other distractions behind. And so the quietness, the sincerity that we seek in our prayer helps us very often to do that. But this is a different approach. This isn't something that we're going to say intimately in the quiet of our hearts, but something that we're really going to shout out, the thing that we need the most, which is you, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. Maybe sometimes we don't really even appreciate how much we need your mercy, Jesus. Bartimaeus got that right away. He knew that was the one thing he really needed from you. And so he doesn't shout out a big kind of long discourse. He doesn't say loads of things that he needs. He simply says, have mercy on me. Now we're told that this man was blind, so maybe we might have thought that he would have shouted, Jesus, help me to see, or Jesus, let me be well again. But that's not what he asks for. Maybe he says that, of course, eventually he wants to be able to receive his sight, but that's not what is drawing him towards you, Jesus, with this instant call in his heart. So we're going to shout out, maybe even just metaphorically, but we're shouting out our prayer to you, Jesus. Now, during the summer, I had a nice opportunity to go on a little boat journey in Scotland. The boat wasn't a very long journey. In fact, it cost almost as much in pounds as it did take in minutes to get from where the port was to where the boat was going. But anyway, it was worthwhile. And as we were waiting for the boat to come, there was a certain kind of suspense building. And there was a family with a couple of little kids. And when we saw the boat coming, even I was getting kind of excited to get on the boat. But it was clear that the little boy in this family really couldn't contain his excitement. The thought of getting on a boat was almost too much for him. So when the boat arrived into the jetty, we walked down calmly, of course. Nobody wants to fall in. But anyway, this boy was kind of jumping up and down. He got onto the boat and he started screaming at the top of his voice, Mom, sit beside me. Now, this boy was so excited, clearly, that it was just overflowing, that he couldn't contain his joy that he was here sitting in this boat and wanting his mom to be with him and to sit beside him, not to sit with his sister, not to sit with anybody else, but to sit beside him and to share this experience. And he was completely unaware of his surroundings, of course. He was completely carried away, in a sense, in this moment. And so his cries for his mother to sit beside him were reverberating throughout the Scottish Highlands. Now, often, I suppose, we think of shouting whenever we're angry. Maybe our passions get the best of us and we shout because something has upset us. Maybe we shout because we're kind of excited, but it kind of usually, in senses, we've kind of lost the run of ourselves. Maybe at a football game or a sports game, you're watching your team, or I don't know, you're watching horses race, and all of a sudden you see your horse, the one that you've backed, is kind of coming in the inside lane, and it's making its way, it's getting closer and closer to the finish, and you kind of get excited and you begin to come on, shout out. Well, that's that kind of same sense of emotion kind of overflowing. Now, I think that's maybe one way in which we can look at this Bartimaeus story. He shouts out because, in a sense, the emotion gets the better of him. Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. Now, here's a man who we're told has been blind for a long time, and whenever he gets his moment to see you, Jesus, he certainly doesn't want to waste it. Now, there's a good lesson for us. How excited do we get, Jesus, whenever you present opportunities for us to come close to you? Maybe even they pass us by without us giving it a second thought. How often do we jump for joy whenever we might pass by a church and see that maybe there's adoration that we can call in to visit you in the Blessed Sacrament? Or maybe we go into a church and see that there are confessions available and we know that we need to go, but we don't scream for joy that we have this opportunity to be with you in a very particular and very intimate way. But I like to think of this little boy screaming throughout the Scottish lakes to have that same excitement, that whenever we would get the opportunities to be with you, Jesus, that we would almost lose the run of ourselves because we're so filled with joy at the opportunity that's presented to us. But we probably never scream and shout in that manner when we go to a church. Often we go in, just say prayers quietly, and I'm not suggesting anybody does, of course, but let's put it into the whole context of the excitement of being with you, Jesus. Does our heart at least scream and shout whenever we come in and we see the tabernacle, we see that little candle flickering beside the tabernacle to show your presence? No, we have to put ourselves into the shoes of Bartimaeus, the blind beggar, to hear that Jesus is coming. The one who can heal me is coming. Now, we also can read in the book of Joshua about shouting in Jericho. This story takes place. We're told then that whenever Joshua and the sons of Israel were going to take the city of Jericho, after they had crossed over the Jordan, that they were to march round the city with the ark of the Lord, and that they were to shout out on the seventh day, and that's exactly what they did. And it was at that shout that the city walls fell, and the sons of Israel were able to conquer that city. So Jericho was no stranger to shouting. And Bartimaeus could not be silenced either. He shouts out, just like the children of Israel did before him, because he is shouting for the Lord's mercy. He is shouting to be conquered completely and totally by you, Jesus. And what always makes me kind of sit up a little bit whenever I read these words is that these are the exact same words that we say at Mass. Lord, have mercy on me. Maybe you're lucky sometimes when you go to Mass that the priest might even encourage us to say these prayers in Greek, in the original form, Kyrie eleison. Well, we don't shout that out. The priest doesn't say, let us pray for the Lord's mercy, Kyrie eleison. And we respond, Kyrie eleison, Christe eleison, Christe eleison, with the same kind of somber tone that one expects, of course, of being in church. But wouldn't it be much more beautiful if we were like Bartimaeus and said, Kyrie eleison, because we were excited that here was our opportunity to ask for mercy. Maybe it just makes us realize how much we really need your mercy, Jesus, even if we never did it. It's just to give us that thought that we would be like Bartimaeus, so we wouldn't be afraid to cry out with all of our heart for what we truly need. Jesus, you know what we need, even before we ask of it. But give us that same conviction of the blind beggar so that we can cry out to you with all of our heart. I give you thanks, my God, for the good resolutions, affections, and inspirations that you have communicated to me during this meditation. I ask your help to put them into effect. My Mother Immaculate, St. Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me.